Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for logging on to Unified Networks webinar on GST and its implications on businesses and the common man. The aim of this session is to help you understand a holistic picture of the new GST bill, its impact on trading, manufacturing, and services businesses, planning operations in the transition and in the long run. We also will touch upon the impact on the common man. I'm extremely glad to welcome our esteemed panelists, Mr. Satya Pramod, who will share insights from their vast experience and knowledge on the subject matter. Before we begin, I would like to briefly introduce him. Mr. Satya Pramod is the CFO of Tally Solutions, the leading accounting and ERP software company in India. He has more than 18 years experience and is responsible for finance, commercial and legal at Tally Solutions. I now hand over the mic to Mr. Satya Pramod.
Thanks, Shrey. Glad to be a part of this network and sharing a few thoughts of mine around GST. I have been talking a little bit around GST, the implementation, what the problems are. How do we ensure that things are going right as a country? Are we ready for GST? A few questions around the whole thing. So just before I get on to a little more specifics, I'll just run you through the present structure of indirect taxes and how GST will change the way we think. How GST will change the way we do businesses and things of that sort. So if you look at the taxation system in the country, we have direct and indirect taxes. Like you guys know, direct taxes are based on the income or the money that a person makes. So it's relative to how much you actually make. A person earning a lakh of rupees may be paying X amount of taxes, but a person earning say 20 lakh rupees may be paying say 2x or 3x amount of those taxes. But indirect taxes does not look at us in the same way. Indirect taxes is common for everyone, be it a millionaire or a pauper, because if I buy this mobile phone, it will be the same amount that I'll be paying as much as a guy in my team who probably earns more than me or even less than me. So indirect taxes doesn't differentiate based on your income or how you what you earn. So it's important that as a country we have a system of indirect taxes which can probably help us remove these anomalies. And with a country where we had about 17 indirect taxes or more actually, we are a little late in getting GST, but I think the way we are getting it is the right way, and if we can accomplish that, it will be a great thing. So just to give you a background of the present structure of indirect taxes, I'll just run through the basic ones: excise duties, service taxes, sales tax or VAT as we may have called it, customs duty, entertainment tax or entry tax. These are the major ones. Those 17 taxes get subsumed as GST. These were the pretty big chunks where all of us got impacted. So excise duty was on manufacture, service tax was on provision of a service, sales tax or VAT was on an event of selling, customs duty was on import or even on an export, entry tax was on entering a jurisdiction, entertainment tax was on provision of entertainment, and things of that sort were going on. So what was happening was there were a lot of duplication of these taxes. Though VAT and SENVAT existed to some extent, one was a central subject, one was a state subject. So center never used to talk to state, and state never used to talk to center. So the credit that was flowing was not seamless. So we needed a system of taxes where credit would flow seamlessly. So for example, if you looked at software, for example, we used to have both VAT and service tax. I could not claim service tax as an input under VAT, for example. Or if you take the trading as an example, excise duty becomes a cost of manufacture. So whatever VAT you pay, only that part used to get credit on. So all these anomalies were thought about, and we needed an holistic GST structure, which is what these guys, which is what the government has worked towards. So just to give you a bird's eye view of what GST is, you are going to have three kinds of taxes. It won't be a single one. What we call CGST, SGST, and IGST. So CGST is central GST. It pretty much covers what center used to charge. For example, it covers. I mean, it is meant to cover, rather. Let's put it that way. The service tax element and the excise element. SGST was for the VAT side of things, and IGST is for the CST. So any movement between states. So these are the three basic acts or the taxes that are going to remain as a part of GST. So some features of the proposed GST, if you look at it, like I said earlier, all the 17 taxes are going to get subsumed under GST, which mainly are excise duties, additional duties of excise, excise duty on medicinal toiletries, CVD and SAD, so which is countervailing duty and special additional duty. So just to give you, I'm sure people know what these terms are. If there are things that you need more clarity on, just type your message and I can probably help you out. Then service tax and surcharges and cesses. So if you look at what state taxes are going to get subsumed, state VAT, sales tax, central sales tax, purchase tax, entertainment tax, octroi, LBT or local body taxes to some extent, not municipal taxes though, luxury tax, entry tax, taxes on lotteries, surcharges and cesses. So so all these will combine together to make one GST. So as a layman, I will only see what I used to see. For example, if you take a hotel bill, we used to see service tax, we used to see VAT, we used to VAT on whatever purchase we've done of anything, I mean, eaten stuff or whatever it is. Service tax on the services they've given, VAT was there, entertainment tax was there, luxury tax was there. All these will get subsumed as one tax, GST, going forward. So from a common man's point of view, it's one tax, but then how businesses need to look at it is a little different. I will take you through that. What are the features? The basic feature of GST is it is destination based. Unlike all indirect taxes that we had, which was manufacturer based, this is destination based. So the place where destination or consumption or whatever you might want to call it, place where the material gets consumed is where the tax incidence occurs. So for example, if there is something that's getting manufactured in Tamil Nadu and getting consumed in Bihar, Bihar is the state which will levy the taxes and collect the taxes. So so the thought process behind the entire thing, I mean, we need to forget two terms, purchase and sale, and this is only going to happen based on supply. Okay. So this applies to all stages in the value chain, applies to all taxable suppliers of goods and services. Like I said, dual GST, SGST and IGST. So basically, IGST is applicable on interstate movement of goods, export export of goods. So there are a few taxes which will remain outside of the GST, which is basic customs duty, excise duty on petrol. We've been reading in newspapers, right? I mean, so petrol though is included in the list. Right now, they've not made it a part of GST, so that's out. Local body entertainment taxes is out. Stamp duties are out. Electricity consumption and sale is out. So these are the basic. These are things that are outside of the GST. Actually, today, tomorrow, and day after, the government is meeting. I mean, the GST Council, which is which comprises of the finance ministers of states and also the union finance minister and the minister for state for finance. They are meeting to discuss on the rates. But then, at a top level, there are four kinds of rates that are going to be there. One is merit rate for essential goods and services. So, in all probability, things around food and things that will get consumed for the common man will be there. Then there's a standard rate, which around which a lot of discussion is going on. 18-20% kind of a rate will be there. Special rates for precious metals, and one for sin goods. So sin goods are basically all your luxury items, stuff like perfumes and things of the sort, which are only used by the elite, if you may say. Then there's also a nil rate. Basically, this would be for exports, where we say that okay, where they'll be available, where these guys will be available to, they would be eligible to take input credit. The entire system is based on something called HSN, which is Harmonized System of Nomenclature. This is a code that will be used all across the, which is standard across the world. There are about 28,000 line items. So, for example, mobile phone will have one HSN code, or a computer mouse will have one HSN code. So, so any HSN code, so everything that we do will now be based on HSN codes. It won't be based on our explanation or the description that we generally give on invoice. There is also a compounding scheme for 50 lakhs and above. So the limit that we've spoken about, or that's been put for registering for GST is 20 lakhs. So any business who has a turnover of more than 20 lakhs needs to get registered under GST. For northeastern states, it is 10 lakhs. I spoke a little bit about supply of goods, supply being the key word in GST. So the thing about GST is there are a few things which a lot of people have pointed out, and a lot of things are coming out in the open, in the sense that it could be a supply with or even without consideration. So that is that's something important that we need to think around. So even if I supply something for free now, it becomes a GST-able event, in the sense that government is saying you may go ahead and give it free of cost, but you give me my GST. It could be free supplies. It could be supplies which are made for trial use and things of the sort. Everything will attract GST. So these are things that we need to start thinking around, how we need to structure our businesses also. Okay. So I won't take too much time around this whole thing of giving you a base thing of GST, but still a few aspects that I think are very important as business owners, as as people who manage organizations. We need to know. The entire concept of GST is based on a seamless flow of credit from the point of from the first point till the end point, right? So input credit is something all of us are aware of because it was available in the SENVAT regime. It has been available in the VAT regime. But one thing that we need to really think about and give a serious get a serious understanding around is what will happen, or what will disallow, what will not let me claim this input credit. Input credit is pretty much, if you may want to call it, it's like it's a check that you've got or something that you can get. So for example, if I go ahead with a thing that me and X do a transaction, and I purchase something worth 1 lakh with a 20,000 rupee tax. So X has paid me 1,20,000, or rather I have paid X 1,20,000, and I expect that the 20,000 rupee tax that I paid, I should be getting credit of that. But there are a few restrictions here, in the sense that I will not get that 20,000 credit until the government sees that X has paid that amount to the government. So this linking of payment along with my credit has a huge implication, in the sense that it has a effect that can derail the whole system of taxes. The government's worry of what I can only refund what is funded is something that needs to be challenged. It's something that needs to be thought about by all of us as business leaders, whether it's the right thing to do. If X has paid me or I have paid X the tax, but he has not paid the government, would it be my duty to ensure that he gets the money, or should it be the government's responsibility to collect it? Especially for smaller businesses, the SMEs, the traders and things of that sort, this becomes a huge issue. Basically, it talks about a trust deficit, in the sense that I will stop doing business with someone I do not know. Even if I know someone, I want him to show me the credentials that yes, I have paid the tax. Till then, I won't feel comfortable to pay him the amount of taxes, because that's something I've done my business on. I mean, I've done my transaction based on the thing that, okay, I'll get this 20,000 rupee credit. But if that doesn't happen, and I've gone ahead and paid him the money, if that doesn't happen, it creates a huge amount of disruption in my business. So that's something that we've been trying as Tally. I've been trying to meet up with the government guys and raise this representation and tell them that, okay, I mean, the beauty of GST law is the input credit, okay, that is seamlessly available. But if you're linking that to payment, does it really make sense? So, so that's one thing on the input tax. So how do you utilize this credit? The IGST credit that I have in my books, I can utilize that to pay IGST first, CGST next, and SGST last. If I have a CGST credit, I can use that to pay off my CGST liability or my IGST liability. Again, here you've got to note, SGST and CGST, which is state and central taxes, cannot be swapped. So I cannot use my CGST credit to pay off my CGST liability, SGST liability, or SGST credit to pay off my CGST liability. This is something that as business owners or business leaders in organizations that we need to understand. So overall, how does that affect the common man? I have some illustrations. Probably I'll share it with Shrey down the line, where because of this entire tax on tax effect which goes away, there will be a reduction in costs. There will be, so even if I take, for example, 100 rupees as the cost of material, 20 rupees as excise duty, and say 10% as VAT. So what happens for a dealer? It becomes 120 as his cost, and 10% would be his would be the VAT that he's got charged, which he can take credit. So his cost was anyway 1,20,000, on which he'll put he'll put his margin and sell it up across to you at whatever. But still his cost remained 1,20,000. But what would happen in the GST regime? 1 lakh plus GST, which is 20,000. So this 20,000 becomes a creditable expense. So that would not be his cost. So basically, the cost which was 1,20,000 has become 1 lakh now. Okay, though different different goods and different services cost. I mean, the VAT rates and excise rates may be different. Will be different. But taking an example of something being kosher in the sense that my GST rate is 20, my excise and VAT rate together are 20. This is what would be the difference, in the sense that what could have been 1,20,000 as cost for a trader becomes 1 lakh. So at a 20,000 foot level is what I'm talking. Again, place of supply becomes very important here. So for goods, what is the place of supply? The location of goods where movement terminated again for delivery to the recipient. So if I'm supplying material from Bangalore to Noida, Noida would be the place where the supply has happened, which means the tax incidence happens in Noida. Similarly, for services, wherever the services are rendered. We've all heard about Constitutional Amendment Bill. What happened in the Constitutional Amendment Bill was basically state and center swapped their rights. Earlier, only state could charge for trading. Center could only charge for services and manufacturing. And what happened was state got the authority to charge on manufacturing and services, and center got the authority to charge on trade. So, which is what has happened today, tomorrow, day after, is when GST Council is meeting and they're looking at a few rates which they're still trying to complicate and things of the sort. But then that's something that we got to deal with. So at a 20,000 foot level, this is what is GST all about. If you look at why GST will be successful or how will it be implemented in things of the sort, the beauty of this entire GST is it is a technology-led law. It is something that will not work without technology. This entire thing of input credit that I was talking about, so the GST and systems that are being built are providing for invoice matching, or what we call invoice matching. So me and X have done a transaction. My sale would be X's purchase. So so if you look at the returns that needs to be filed, there are GSTR 1 till GSTR 8. So basically, let's talk about 1, 2, and 3, which are the main ones. So what happens? I file my sale return in the sense that the entire sales that I've done for the month by the 10th of the next month, where I need to tell these are the 20 sales, for example, that I've done. So those 20 sales that I've done become purchase for 20 other people. So those people in their GSTR 2. So what happens is at the back end on the GST and systems, a GSTR2 for everyone gets auto-generated based on what purchases they've made, or rather what sale has been declared by the seller. So that person's GSTR2 will be auto-populated, and it will state that, okay, Satya sold something, Satya has sold you something for worth 1 lakh rupees. Say, for example, Satya had 2 sales, and this person, but Satya had only filed 1. The purchaser has the option to add up that 1 more sale or modify it and tell that, okay, Satya actually sold 2 to me, and which Satya can also tell that, okay, I had forgotten to do it. And so basically what I'm trying to tell is GSTR1 is something that that is a sale return. GSTR2 will be something, will be the purchase return, in the sense that which will be auto-populated, which states that, okay, this is the purchase you made. So 1 and 2 get knocked off to tell that GSTR3, where which tells that, okay, this is the input credit available for you, and this is the tax which is payable. So so GSTR1 needs to be filed by 10th of the month, 2 by 15th of the month, and 3 by 20th of the month. So so these are the 3 returns that that we spoke about. So the registration process, if you saw newspapers yesterday, or I think today, Assam has already started migrating their users onto the GST network. I think they're the first state to have passed the constitution amendment also, and they're the first state to have started off on the registration also. So it's auto registration that is going to happen based on the data the state departments and the central departments already have about businesses. So so GST operations mainly are registration first, then upload of returns, then the final returns, the payment. So even if you look at how the payment is going to be made, it's only through NEFT, RTGS, debit and credit cards. So I think they're trying to move the entire system onto digital kind of a mode, and then the annual GST return reconciliation that happens. So at a 20,000 foot level, this is what GST is all about. If you look at a few startling issues that we've been trying to speak to the government. One was the input credit issue, which I said, which has the potential to disrupt this entire process. The thing, input credit thing that I was talking, for example, like I said, I do a transaction on April 1st for 1 lakh of rupees and 20,000 taxes. If a small guy does a business with a bigger guy, the bigger guy wants to see that money paid to the government or uploaded on the systems, which says that, okay, this credit is available to you. So if I did a transaction on April 1st, that visibility is available to this guy only on May 20th, because only on May 20th does he need to pay the taxes. So what is he going to do for this entire 50 days? And how will he fund it? So if you look at the 1 lakh that that the bigger guy needs to pay, he will say that I'll pay you the 1 lakh, but on the 20,000 rupees, can you show me proof that you paid to the government? And that proof can only be shown in this form. So and if you look at why a return could get rejected, there are innumerable things. I mean, if I have 10,000 line items in my return, even if I paid taxes for 9,999 and 1 I have not paid, this entire return can get rejected. So so we've been talking to the government and trying to tell them that, why do you want to link payment with input credit? Since it's a system based and it's a transaction based tax, why not look at locking up the invoice at a stage where I say that I've sold it to X and X says that he's purchased it from me. So that could happen even on the day of transaction. So as long as that happens, there is a liability which gets created uh, between me and the government, because I've said that I've sold it to him and I've collected this GST, or I'm supposed to collect this GST. So government can anyway come after me. So how do you expect X to come behind me to ensure that he gets his own credit? So so that's one of the things that I wanted to talk. One more issue that will come across pretty startling again would be this whole question of GST being charged on advances. So the why do two people or two people on a business transaction have advances at all? So generally, if I need to get something built or something, I would like to lock both of us into the transaction. So if it's a 1 crore worth project, I would say, okay, I'll pay you 5 lakh, 10 lakh as advance. So right now, GST is payable even on this advance, even on this 10 lakhs. I need to pay a GST, which is weird, right? I mean, in the sense that the transaction could have happened, could not have happened, but I need to still pay GST on that. But then what do I allocate this GST against? Because the entire system is based on HSN codes. I don't even know what is going to get completely supplied. For me to make this whole, to build out a computer, for example, I don't know what kind of RAM I want to use, or what kind of, or what will be something that will get used. So, so what do I allocate this HSN code against? So if I allocate something to the entire HSN code, does he have to supply that completely and not the others? So these are various kind of questions which come in and which can disrupt the system. I mean, this whole concept of tradability is something that has not been considered. Other issues like transition issues around how will you transition things around, for example, stocks that is available with a manufacturer as of X date, and stock that is available with a trader on the same X date. On, say, let's take that April 1st, 2017 is when this will get implemented. So on 31/3/2016, if a manufacturer is sitting on X amount of stock and he sells it post 1st April, he will be eligible for input credit for those materials. However, a trader will not be eligible for input credit. So I mean, these are issues that need to that government needs to seriously think around how to sort them before they come out with the final law. The beauty again here is everything is paperless. Completely a paperless system is what is being envisaged. There won't be any filing that needs to happen on paper at all. So so we need to unlearn whatever we've done till now and interact only with the network, with GST network. So so pretty much an overview and things around what is happening is what I gave you. I would now stop for questions. I think I've spoken a lot. If people could let me know if you have any questions or anything in particular that you would like to understand a little more on, I would love to take that.
Thank you, Mr. Pramod. Just before we move to the Q&A, I'd like to inform that Mr. Praveen Khandelwal, who was to be part of this session, is actually caught up in the GST Council meeting that Mr. Pramod just mentioned. What we'll do is we'll get his views on this topic by this weekend once the meeting is over. and publish it along with the recording for the webinar.
Absolutely.
So
I work closely with Praveen Khandelwal on quite a few things. And since he's a part of the council, he was a part of the Empowered Committee. I think he's a good person to know, in the sense that it'll be good to understand what the government's views are straight from the horse's mouth.
right. So moving on to the questions, I think we've got a few interesting ones. I think what is on everyone's mind, the first and the biggest thing is that will the entire state and central government be ready for implementation by 1st of April? I think that is something which everybody is speculating about, and we would like to know your views on that.
Sure. So from what knowledge I have, and how and with working with GSTN, I think we will be left with no choice, in the sense that they've pretty much made up their mind that 1st April is the day when we need to implement GST. But my personal thought is, for 6 months we may have a period where they'll give a cooling off period and won't really implement everything in its complete earnest. But 1st April will still be the date, is something that I think. Now, the thing is, if you look at a few states, for example, states like Karnataka, Gujarat, Maharashtra, Delhi, these were the states which were already very active in their VAT days in terms of being digital. So, for example, all the VAT returns in Karnataka were filed online through your ASP or application, through your accounting application itself. So these are states which are pushing for a first implementation, in the sense that they're completely ready. GSTN is putting their entire effort to make sure that they will be ready by the for 1st April launch. In fact, they've already released a few APIs on their domain, which a lot of people are working on. Just to give you a sense of how GSTN intends to work. So GSTN, like many of you know, is a private body right now, which is owned 51% by private institutions, HDFC, ICICI, etc., and 49% by center and state, 24.5% by center, 24.5% by the state, between the states. So, so this is the body which will be hosting the entire nation's data, right? I mean, indirect tax data. So, so they are working closely with Infosys. Infosys is their partner. They are building the systems at the back end, working closely with them. So they will not have a direct access to the end taxpayer. So they are bringing in someone called a GSP in between, which is GST Suvidha provider, who would be a conduit between GSTN and the taxpayer. So for you to file the taxes, though, they'll also have a portal up and running where you can go and fill in your details and file your taxes. But this is GSP would be the layer in between, because they would not, because GSTN as a system would not want too many hits from outside and be subject to hacks and spyware, malware, or whatever it is. So they are keeping that very clear and clean, where they're allowing a few GSPs to be the conduit between the taxpayer and GST.
Okay, great. So we have another question from Namrata. She's asking for e-commerce companies, parts of UP, that is, I think specifically Noida, have been off limits due to heavy interstate taxes. So she wanted to understand how will GST ease this problem?
So I think on the e-commerce front, the bigger problem to solve there was the TCS thing, which I don't think there will be a reprieve on. But But if you look at how taxes are going to flow, it will be one tax all through the country. So if it's a 20% on, just give me 1 second, guys. Just 1 second. I'm on a call. I'll call you back. If you look at how it will be, whether it's for a offline or an online supply, it would be the same cost.
Okay. I think one thing that people have been asking, this is from Nikhil Srivastav. How will it actually affect the common man? What would be the inflation, statistics going up and down with GST being implemented, and what will be the impact on a layman person who's not involved in the business?
So if you could visit also our blog section on blogs.talysolutions.com. My colleague has written an article around inflation and profiteering and how GST will pan out. But just to give you an idea around how it will work, okay. If you look at it, say for example, I was buying a mobile phone, like I told you the example of tax on tax going away, which means that if it was 20% taxes earlier and 20% tax now, obviously now the product cost is going to come down. Now I mean GST. So if you look at a like-to-like scenario, yes, product cost should come down. But if you look at how the market will react and how things will pan out, initially, like I said, the issue on input credit. Okay, so a businessman would not want to live in this uncertainty period for too long, right? So what would he do? He would want to, this passing of input credit may not happen seamlessly, initially at least, till he gets that confidence that yes, I will get input credit from whom I bought. So if that doesn't happen, he makes that as a part of cost, and he will load it on to the end consumer. So it may mean that for that interim period, in the sense that for the 9, 12, 18 months where we see that the GST system is getting neatly settled, we may see some kind of an inflation, but we think that can get offset because there will be a lot of B2B players who would want to pass on that benefit to the consumer. So if it was, for example, between a B2B player and a B2C player, in the sense that someone who has a bigger clout, for example, any of the supermarkets or the big retailers, right? I mean, he will have a bigger clout as against the smaller guy. But then you will never, in the sense that he's pretty sure of the input credit that he's got passed, which means that his cost is going to still be lower, which he'll pass on to the end consumer. So though it may take a few months to settle down, 12 to 18 months from now, yes, it will impact. It will increase the tax base, but for about 9 to 12 months initially, you may see some kind of an inflation happening.
Okay, great. So we have another question from Hitesh. Why have some services from the CPI basket been exempted from GST? And what does it mean for the service, for these service providers?
Which kind of services? If I may check, I mean, electricity services, yes, I do. They've kept it outside of the basket, yes. Why? I think that's a question. For example, even petroleum, why have they been kept out of it? If you look at petroleum, I think Tamil Nadu was the guy who was pushing for petroleum being outside, because see, basically what are you doing with GST? You're curtailing quite a bit of the state's powers, right? in the sense that they had the power to change the tax structure and rates at any point of time. Now we are bringing it on one platform and they are not allowing that to happen. So petroleum being for petroleum or even electricity being one of the big inputs into any manufacturing process or even into the services sector. I think the states did not want to lose their power on getting that, which also has an adverse effect, which we all know, which means that the tax that gets paid there is not eligible for input credit, which means that that tax has to be borne by the user. So so this is still a tussle between the state and center, which is the biggest reason why some of the items have been kept out of the list.
So I think we have time for the last two questions right now. This one is from Vilas Patil. Do you have to upload GST transactions to the GST server by suppliers? I think what he's talking about is the supplier transactions. Does this customer have to upload that? And I think if you can just give him a guidance of where to find the format of this data and a little bit more about how to upload a return.
Yeah, like I said, there are three main returns that you need to know, which is GSTR 1, 2, and 3. GSTR 1, like I said, is your outward supplies, in the sense that whatever you sold to your customers. So you upload that as a GSTR 1. What happens is that GSTR 1 automatically becomes someone else's GSTR 2, right? So that becomes a purchase of someone else. So which gets matched at the GSTN level. And what happens is on the 15th of the next month, 15th of the month, it will come to you as a purchase. Okay, telling that Satya has sold this to you. Do you acknowledge this purchase? So what you need to do is, instead of uploading everything, you will get an auto-populated statement as GSTR2, and you need to just tick off telling that accept it. Yes, I've purchased this from this person. So it also has the capacity to, what do you say, to modify, in the sense that if you purchase two things from me and I've uploaded only one, the second thing you can go ahead and tell that, okay, I've also purchased this from Satya and I'm uploading that. So GSTR2 generally is an auto-populated one, and like I said, GSTR3 is the thing between GSTR1 plus 2. So the difference between whatever you got to pay and what input credit you have will come in GSTR3, and that's what it is.
Okay, great. I think the last question for today just if you can sum up and kind of guide our users and audience that what should be the best practices that an organization should follow in order to ensure seamless implementation. Some maybe 2, 3 points, 4, 5 points off the top of your head.
Absolutely. So one thing I think that you need to clearly be aware of is the transition. When it happens, you need to be disciplined. You need to know exactly what is the credit that you're moving from on the 31st March onto 1st April. If you have say 10,000 rupee credit that you're moving, you better have details of those 10,000, because the transition period is the period when everyone jumps around. The clarity is very low at that point of time. You don't know. So discipline around the transition period is something very important. If you guys are traders, you need to really plan your stocks. You need to plan as to how much you need to exactly hold as on that date. If you guys are manufacturers, again, you need to plan your stocks so that you make use of this whole transition time. For example, you may want to hold more stock during that period and not ship it out of the factory and ship it out only on the 1st of April so that you can get a input credit. So these are things that you need to keep in mind from the transition point of view. But when you look at what you need to do going forward from April. One thing is, it was a thing, it will become a thing of past that finance guys or your accountant was managing your entire, say, entire return process, or your child accountant or whoever, right? It becomes a daily thing, because this input credit thing that is there, it's like your, it's like a checkbook, like it's money sitting, which is to be utilized. So you need to ensure that whatever input credit you need to get, you really get. So so you need to start monitoring your business on a daily basis, instead of leaving it in the hands of X, Y, or Z. So this thing of monitoring taxes on a daily basis brings you closer to the business, to ensure that you exactly know what is happening in your business, whether you're getting the right amount of money that you need to get. I mean, it gets you stronger on the on your basics. So so please take lead there, as business owners. You need to take lead and ensure that yes, everything is happening the way it should. So those are pretty much things from my end, Shay.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Mr. Pramod, for such an insightful session. I'm sure that our audience has benefited multifold from it. To all our attendees, thank you for your participation. I'd like to request you to please take out 2 minutes of time to fill the feedback form you will receive shortly after we end this webinar. We need this feedback to, to ensure that we deliver such useful sessions and keep going forward with it. Also, I'd like to just reiterate that we will be putting up a recording with Mr. Praveen Khandelwal on his views on this matter, and we'll do that by this weekend. Also, remember all attendees that you can view the recording of this webinar on your alumni portal. And thank you once again, and good day to you all. Thank you.
Thank you.